some regular cookouts throughout the summer. We have them right over here in Gaithersburg, so if you guys check out our calendar, or if you want to sign in on the sheet we have over here in the back, I'd be happy to send you anything that we have going on locally. One thing that I don't know if is interesting to you all, we do offer a 2-day building science class. This comes with all kinds of CEU credits. So I put this back here in case it's of interest. It is a 2-day class, and we mainly get probably 60% of the attendees are architects and designers. So if that's of interest, please email me and register for that. I did give each one of you one of our corporate brochures. In this brochure are some of our other specialty services that we offer. We do have window consultants on staff to help with any sort of consulting you need, choosing the perfect window for your home, and they work with architects and homeowners and builders. We do have our custom mill shop, which Chris is going to touch on. So we do custom doors and architectural woodworking with built-ins and things like that. We also have an engineered wood department at TW Perry, where we do free design work for engineered wood trusses and things like that. So we do a lot more, and also I didn't mention, but we do have a stair and rail division. You can see on the front page here we have a nice stairway. So we have a division that will actually install the stair parts for that. So we do offer a lot of great stuff, and really I wanted to come and meet you all and watch Chris's presentation. He put this together special for you guys today, so I hope you enjoy it. And Chris, by the way, is the director of our architectural sales at TW Perry. So,
thank you very much. Okay, as Jen said, I was kind of asked to put together a presentation to touch on crown moldings, chair rails, wainscoting, coffered ceilings, built-ins, radius or flex molding. So I put together this little presentation. It's about 47 slides. There's lots of pictures and ideas, but I tried to keep it very generic so that we're not going to get into specific profiles and things, but we're going to talk more about how things work together in these different categories. And please, if you have any questions or want to talk about anything, that works great for me. I'd love to answer any questions. That might help everybody understand a little bit better what we're talking about. First on the list is crown moldings, and as we all know, you can do single-piece crown moldings or multi-piece crown moldings. I've got some small little rule of thumb that I've put over in the left-hand column. Single-piece crown moldings are normally used 3.5 to 5 1/4 inch on an 8-foot ceiling, maybe 5 1/4 to 7 1/4, 9-foot ceiling. There's all sorts of little rules that people have come up with, but we find that seems to work nice on single moldings. You're looking at moldings, you know, that are going to be your standard colonial crown with cove, or maybe something a little fancy with a few more lines in it. But for years, these simpler styles of crown molding were what you saw for a single-piece crown molding most of the time. To make the moldings bigger, we started adding a baseboard or a crown molding, or I'm sorry, baseboard or a casing or something, or another molding to make a multi-piece molding. You can either do it with a baseboard or add a panel molding. So now we're using several small pieces of wood, stacking them together to get them to look bigger than they really are. And here you can see, you know, you get to a 10-foot ceiling, 8 to 10 inches of molding is a good rule to go with, or a 12-foot ceiling, maybe 10 to 12 inches. The ratio is changing as the room's getting bigger, but depending on the size of the room and the height of the ceiling, that's going to change the look of the molding, as well as the style. If you're looking at something that's more contemporary, you may not have any crown molding or a simple cove, but it'll probably be something that's smaller than you see in a Victorian or a traditional style house. In these pictures, you can see that this has got a baseboard on the top and bottom and the smaller molding in the middle. Here we've separated the crown molding with a drywall space and a separate panel molding on the bottom. Some of the pitfalls of multi-piece molding is your transitions. When you get to the end of a wall, how do you stop and start the molding if it's not in a completely closed room? That can be a major drawback, and looks good when you're looking at it in one corner, but when you look all the way around the room, you start to find all these funky little applications, and it may not come out looking quite as nice as if you used a one-piece molding. Recently, people have been going to larger moldings. Here's a 7-inch one-piece crown molding, or even a 5 1/4 inch one-piece crown molding. Now you get the size, height-wise, maybe as a multi-piece molding, but it really looks much bigger. You can see the design looks much nicer. And when you get into your inside and outside corners, it has a lot more drama because you're projecting out into the room more instead of up the ceiling or up the wall and across the ceiling.
I have a question. So you're saying that that was, your larger molding was, say, a 7 1/4 inch, I believe? Or
Yes.
what was the larger?
This one's about a 7-inch molding.
Okay,
Yeah.
so could you tell me where 7 inches, what are you speaking of? Are you talking about? the
We're
way it's
talking
angled?
the width of the molding here.
Right.
Moldings are referred a couple ways. Like when we look at the size of the molding for the height, like a 3 1/2 to a 5 1/4. The moldings are usually at like a 32-degree angle, so it's going to drop a little bit further down the wall than across the ceiling. But different moldings do vary in their angles. Because it's not a steadfast rule, if the molding is 7 inches across the face, this one particular comes down 5 1/2. This one I would use on a 9 or 10-foot ceiling. Something like this, that is a 5 1/4 inch molding that comes down about 4 inches, I would use on an 8-foot ceiling. But the two match each other, they can be used in the same house together, but we're not just adding strips above and below a standard molding or one smaller piece to make it bigger and make it match in different scale rooms. Chair rail and wainscoting. All kinds of ways to do chair rail and wainscoting. The traditional way has been taking a single piece chair rail and an applied Belection molding and laying it right on the drywall. You can see here that the plane of the wall and the plane of the stiles and rails and your baseboard are really all on the same flat plane. The lighting of this photograph kind of gives it some nice shadow lines and some nice dimension. But you can also upgrade, well, I'm sorry, one more slide here. Again, showing applied molding, but some of the pitfalls of applied molding. When you get to the end of a wall, how do you stop and start it? You can see here how it's assembled. It's just a small Belection molding, lots of different styles, applied directly onto the drywall. Stile and rail construction is a little higher end, much more furniture-like. The stile and rail are when we have vertical stiles, horizontal rails, and then different inserts inside. And we're going to look at 4 or 5 different styles. First is when we have kind of a craftsman style, where we're running a vertical style, horizontal rail, either a flat panel or drywall, but just a square edge on the inside. And if this little light will work. Yeah. Here you can see how it's a very clean look. Sometimes you might even call it a little contemporary, but normally you're not going to see wainscoting in a contemporary installation. Using that same type of construction, but replacing the center flat panel with a beaded wainscot, which is something like this, you can dramatically change the look of that wainscoting. Give it more of a kind of a country feel. Again, it's the same basic construction. We have our vertical stiles and horizontal rails, and then a different insert in the middle.
Okay. I have a question for you. Actually, on your diagram that you have on the right, you can see that the top line is set back a little bit. It appears to be a cap.
Yes.
So do you have actually a cap with you?
I don't have a cap, but a lot of times the cap is made up of a small panel molding, and then, and I'll use this as an example, this is a baseboard, but it might be a piece of window stool on top. So that two pieces together, when you trim the window stool down, gives you a cap that'll fit over whatever the thickness of your wainscoting is, whether it's a 1/2 inch thick or 1 inch thick. You adjust the depth of your cap by changing the width of the window stool. Window stool makes a nice traditional cap. There are some specific moldings that have a small rabbet in the back that will lip over. It say something like this. Now here's a molding that has a rabbet, which is this little groove in the bottom that lips over the top of a 3/4 inch wainscot, but it tapers back to the wall. Usually you're going to see a wainscot with a flat cap or something that's about the same thickness, if not slightly thicker than the wainscoting. Although this is a nice way to keep it from getting too big and sticking out past the casing. The molding that goes around your doors and windows, sometimes you'll see a job that wasn't planned out just right and all these moldings are sticking out beyond the window casing. This might be a way to avoid that. This is a more traditional style where we have a true raised panel like you would see in a raised panel door. Again, stile and rail is all the same, but the insert in the middle is actually a raised panel. An economical way to get style and rail is to eliminate the center panel and have the drywall be your center flat panel. But to give it a little more dimension, you can add a panel molding. Here we've got this rabbited panel molding that's setting inside, and it steps from the raised style and rail back down to the drywall. So it gives us more dimension because it looks thicker and bolder, but we don't have the cost of that center panel. We're still using the drywall as our back panel in the center. Without the raised molding and just doing a low profile inset molding, see how now the molding no longer sticks out above the style and rail, it's going to be recessed inside. Again, same style and rail construction, but we're doing an inset panel molding as opposed to a election molding or a rabbited panel molding. Now there's lots of variations on wainscoting. Here we're showing an idea where we've got a large cap, what we call stacked panels, and engaged pilasters. So you can add a lot of details. It's still the same construction, but enhanced with a little more detail. This is the style and rail with the rabbited election molding. Again, run it up to 60 inches high, stack the panels, put a ledge on top, changes the whole look. Here you can see the crown molding. This is a one-piece 7-inch crown molding instead of 2 or 3 pieces of molding stacked together. Definitely has a much bolder look. Something else that we can do with modern equipment, we have a couple of CNC routers in our manufacturing facility, and you can do all kinds of neat things with MDF board, which is a very inexpensive material. Come up with a unique design or pattern, and we can cut it out, pre-paint it, and then you glue it right on the wall and create some really unique looking wainscoting designs.
So what is this, like, computer, digital?
Right, a CNC is
Design.
computer pneumatic or numerically controlled. Yes.
Yes, how do you finish the edges of the MDF? Because, you know, it's porous on the edges.
Well, if we're using 1/2-inch MDF, it really only needs to be sanded and primed. All of the inside edges, if it's cut cleanly with a carbide router bit, and you use high density, we use a brand called Plum Creek, which is a very dense material. So its consistency all the way throughout the board is very, very high, and it gives you a nice smooth edge. If it's got a rough or fluffy edge, it was probably lightweight MDF, or it was cut with a dull bit. Yes.
How big are the sheets that this is available?
The sheets come up to 10 feet long. The nominal size is 8 foot, 4 by 8 sheets, but we can get 5 by 10 sheets.
Okay.
Depending on the height, we can adjust the yield out of a sheet.
And what is a typical price point?
It varies depending on the design. We're going to have some programming time up front. If we have a bunch of panels that are all different sizes and the design changes, there'll be a programming charge for each one.
Do you have set designs?
We don't have set designs. One of the things that we do in our shop, we can almost say we've never made the same thing twice. But if you like something, we'll make it over and over for you.
You can also come up with design, okay.
Yeah, if you do your own design, send it to us as a DXF or DWG file. We can then convert it into a router path file, and we can cut it out. All we need is the line to follow, and then we can modify it if we need to fit a specific area.
And would you consider, well, I'm guessing that this is more expensive than doing an applied trim or molding to create wainscoting, not doing the full wainscoting, but just an applied trim. It would be more expensive
It
than
would be a little more expensive than the applied molding, but probably less expensive than the style and rail construction.
Really?
Yeah. Because the material is almost nothing. A 5 by 10 sheet of 1/2-inch MDF is about $60.
Right.
Now, the programming time and the router time is what adds up, but because it's mostly automated, the more you get, the cheaper the programming becomes, because we only have to program it once. If they're all going to be 10-foot sheets, 10-foot lengths, you want a bunch of 10-foot lengths, and then you can cut them. If you've designed it so that you can make a cut in the design that will work with the lengths of your walls, that's where it gets kind of crazy. Now, some things you can do is you can combine the style and rail construction and then just make your own unique insert that goes inside.
What's your lead time on things like this?
About 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
So, and because I know that you service a lot of the builders in this particular area, if you were going outside that area, would most companies that the builders are getting their
They'd probably be
lumber
able to find somebody that can do it. If not, we've shipped stuff. We do also have a custom cabinet shop. We just sent 3 kitchens down to Virgin Gorda. We can send stuff anywhere it needs to go. This stuff will ship relatively cheap because it's flat.